those implicated in the state captures inquiry report eventually be seen in orange overalls? Well, in case you've missed it, the fifth and final report has been made public, raising eyebrows on the evidence President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa delivered before the commission. That is, gaps in what the president said about the looting of state resources. The report also looks into the controversial use of the Waterkloof Air Force Base in Pretoria, Kotswane, the Gupta's landing there in 2013, remember, for that wedding at Sun City, and how the Gupta family bagged millions of rand from government through irregular contracts. We've seen the recommendations, or some of them at least, by the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo and the commission that he was heading. But will we live to see the day these get implemented and those responsible actually face the music? Well, let's get some views now. I'm joined by political analyst Prince Mashele and Moepeng Talane. She's a senior journalist and editor at Corruption Watch. Moepeng and Prince, good afternoon, welcome, and thank you very much for your time. Moepeng, just your initial reaction as these details are coming out. I mean, this is a huge volume, preceded by four other reports. This fifth report, big. What is standing out for you?
I think more than anything, it is indeed a huge volume. The Commission's work was a huge undertaking, of course. And when the Chief Justice said yesterday evening that, the accounting again over the experience of the last 4 years or so, it really brought home the sense of how much work really went into the work of the commission, and how much even more went into detailing the reports that they have so far managed to put out. So what stands out, of course, even more recommendations for further investigations with the potential of prosecutions for a lot of very senior, very influential people that would have otherwise, had it not been, I suppose, for the commission, would have otherwise not have been brought to account for their alleged actions. So yes, we look forward to what the law enforcement agencies would be able to tell us about how they plan to take their implementation plans forward.
Yeah, so people are going to have to be held accountable. Prince Mashele, let me bring you in here. I mean, you've said here on this platform many times before that what we are reading today in these reports is something that we've known, some people have suspected, we've heard about over the last 4 years, people giving evidence. It's now wrapped up, it's done and dusted. For you, what's standing out as we look at this post-fifth and final report?
Two things for me, Dan, and thanks for inviting me. Number one is that the whole governing party of South Africa, that is the African National Congress, is guilty of state capture. And this comes out very clearly. The Chief Justice makes such a finding in terms of the culpability of the governing party. Under normal circumstances in a democracy, and a country governed by a rule of law, the whole party was supposed to be dissolved because it is all guilty. Number two, the other thing that stands out for me is that the president, the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa of the state, he is equally guilty in the sense that he actually knew what was going on and he decided to look the other way. And if you do that, it means that you are culpable. So this whole thing now is in the hands of, it's in two hands. The first hand is voters. What do you do with a political party that has literally collapsed your state? That's number one. The other hand is law enforcement agencies. Will they have the courage to prosecute high-ranking personalities linked to the guilty party, that is the ANC? So in summary, that is what we are dealing with here.
Yeah, actually, just to quote that section of the report of the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo and the Commission's finding, he says the ANC under President Jacob Zuma at the time, because he was the president, and he says permitted, supported, and enabled corruption and state capture. So from a corruption watch perspective, we know who's been enabling corruption in this country. So it should be pretty much straightforward, Moepeng, to who should be held accountable.
Absolutely, and I love the fact that Mr. Mashele says that it will be up to the law enforcement agencies to show where their independence, of course, and their ability and capacity to carry out such further investigations and possible prosecutions in future. So it is a really, that's the most determining factor. I mean, whether or not we are going to see people account for the actions that they are implicated in.
Yeah, will they face the music? Yeah, will they face the music, as you said, those people, because that's consequence. Yes. But I'm thinking here, just one of the things that for me stood out was the fact that this commission did not delve into investigating the law enforcement agencies. The Chief Justice yesterday saying because it was going to be too broad, it's going to take too long, it's not going to be enough. And we know, and every other now and again, we see the fact that sometimes the assets of law enforcement agencies have been misused in the political infighting that's been going on with the corrupt governing party. Prince?
Look, here is the gist of it, Dan. If you have a corrupt governing party, you are going to collapse the state as a whole. That's what is coming out of this investigation and the reports. So the question is, what can you do to deal with a corrupt governing party? Unfortunately, Braden, there is nothing you can do to deal with a corrupt governing party other than removing it from power through elections. And you see, we shouldn't shy away from making this point because South Africans must know what has gone wrong with their country. What has gone wrong is that the governing party they entrusted with the responsibility of governing the state went wrong, and it therefore affected the integrity of their state. The question is, what do you do when that happens? In a democracy, you remove such a governing party from power, because if you don't remove it from power, it will continue to destroy your state even further. The last point I want to make in relation to this is that I do not expect, by the way, that law enforcement agencies will have the courage to go after every senior member of the ANC who's implicated. Why? If you do so, you are going to dissolve the state, the law enforcement agencies will dissolve the ANC. And obviously, it is still the leaders of the ANC who are leading the state, and they wouldn't want their party to be dissolved by state law enforcement agencies. So what they will do their best to defend themselves and thereby defending the African National Congress. So we are faced with a danger here of a governing party that is guilty, that will defend itself, and in the process, it will continue to harm our state.
Now, Moepeng, the expectation from what our people on the ground have been telling some of our reporters today, as we're reporting on eNCA, is they want to see action. And you said the same thing when you answered the first question. But there is this dark thing, this dark cloud that Prince is raising now to say, will they have the courage, will the law enforcement agent have the courage to really pursue these individuals because of the risk involved? But at the same time, you could also ask another question, do they have the capacity? Because we know how much the likes of the NPA were hollowed out over the last few years.
It would serve the NPA and the Hawks, of course, very well to take members of the public into their confidence and share with us where perhaps such capacity weaknesses may be. But to answer the first question, I don't think we have the option of not going after the big guns, because it's when you go after the big guns that you can subsequently hold everyone else that comes after that accountable. You can't do it without holding those in power that have the influence, as my colleague says, within the ruling party accountable. And we can only hope that the NPA will indeed carry out that mandate.
Yeah, it might be a drawn-out process, I'm thinking there, Moepeng, because as well, we've had some people say we're going to take some of these things on review, we're going to go to court, and I mean, we live in that kind of a country where the judiciary will hear you out. It actually might be longer before we see the consequences. We see, as we are saying here on eNCA today, those guilty ones in orange overalls.
True. I mean, the magnitude of the work that the Commission itself had to take care of, had to traverse, shows you that there was a lot to go through. There was a lot to uncover, so to speak. So it's not going to be an easy task, and we're not likely to see the action that people desire within this within this period of the current administration. It may well be that we'll go to elections before the next national elections, before anything tangible that we can point to has happened.
Yeah, the other point, Prince, I was thinking about now is that the president says within 4 months, is going to go to Parliament. And then he's going to present the report to Parliament and what he plans to do going forward. Past commissions of inquiry into all sorts of things in this country have been found wanting in the implementation of recommendations. I mean, the Judge Siriti's arms deal commission of inquiry was even declared in court as a whitewash, for example. Now, this one is so big. How confident should we be, Prince, that the president will implement or will urge the implementation of the recommendations, even if it means he must go?
Look, I'm not confident at all. Number one, the president is still dealing with his own skeletons arising from Palapala Farm. It's not a president we can trust, because he hasn't even come out to the public and told us fully what happened there. So this is a president who has a history of cover-ups. That's number one. Number two, Parliament has never proven itself to be effective on anything. Why? Because Parliament is at the mercy of the majority party, which is the one that is guilty, the ANC. So in other words, Cyril Ramaphosa is going to Parliament to present to his own comrades. At the end of the day, Parliament will have to vote. And obviously, the ANC enjoys the majority in Parliament. So we must not expect anything to come out of Parliament. By the way, we don't even need Parliament in this regard, because this report makes specific findings and presents specific evidence that can be used by law enforcement agencies if they have the courage and teeth to act. So you don't need Parliament to do anything, by the way. It's a waste of time. So I think that we shouldn't expect anything to come out of Parliament, and we should not trust President Cyril Ramaphosa that he is serious about the implementation of especially the findings that require the punishment of his own comrades. I think he would be part of a bigger cover-up. Remember, Dan, there is an audio clip that was leaked from an NEC meeting of the ANC. What did Cyril Ramaphosa say? He said he is prepared to fall on the sword for the public not to know that the ANC uses public money for its own activities. So we know here that we're dealing with a president who is ready to defend his party when it has been found wanting.
He's a party man through and through. Okay, finally, Moepeng, as an NGO, in terms of civil society pressure, do you think there could be a role here? Earlier today, I haven't read it, I've seen a statement by the Defend Our Democracy grouping that says it's going to be watching the implementation of this. From a corruption watch perspective, what should the role of NGOs and civil society be to ensure that there will be accountability, that there will be consequences, that 1 1 billion rand that was spent on the Zondo Commission was not wasteful?
Well, our role does not begin only at this phase of the Commission's work. It preceded this period. One of the recommendations made by the Commission, you will find in the document, is that Parliament consider a submission that was made by ourselves, Corruption Watch, to Parliament that has to do with leadership appointments that are made by Parliament, and that those be held in the public and be traversed in the public domain, so that members of the public are able to watch such proceedings happen in Parliament, in the National Assembly. Furthermore, I don't think that the time is now, there is an option for NGOs like ourselves to fold our arms. We have to keep a watchful eye, of course, on how things go forward. And we can only hope that there will be room in the space between now and the end of the 4 months that the presidency is looking at, that there will be an opportunity for us to play a role there, because there will be a big need for further submissions in terms of how, perhaps based on the findings and recommendations of the Commission, where we can make submissions and make further recommendations of how perhaps structural changes may be done so that they can benefit the state going forward. At the end of the day, what we all need is a government that does its job differently to how we have heard in the period under review, and that all the gaps that may have been weakened and exploited by those pursuing state capture be closed, so that it's reversed and it cannot happen again.
Thank you very much. That's Moepeng Talane and Prince Mashele for your time and views this afternoon here on eNCA.